and I'll take the sediment for this meeting of the Education Resources Committee of the 26th of September 2023. I see that we have present Councillor Allison. Councillor Anderson is also present, as is Councillor Clark, Councillor Cowie. I have apologies from Councillor Fagan. Councillor Faulkner is here, as is Councillor Ferguson. He is participating. Just checking for Councillor Frame. And I'm not seeing Councillor Frame, but I'll keep an eye on that. Councillor Fulton is present. I have apologies from Councillor Jerry Gray and Councillor Maureen. No, sorry, Councillor Julia Mars is substituting for Councillor Gray, and I see that Councillor Mars is participating in the meeting. We have present Councillors Hamilton, Horsham, Johnson Dempsey, Keat, Kerr and Lambie. Just looking for Councillor Richard Lockhart. Not seeing anything from him at the moment. Councillor Logan is present, as is Councillor Loudon. Councillor McCallan has been in the meeting. I understand that he's having technical difficulties currently, and I'll keep checking on that one. Councillor McGeever. Not seeing anything from Councillor McGeever at the moment. I have apologies from Councillor Razak, and I understand that Councillor Devlin is substituting for him, and Councillor Devlin is in attendance at the meeting. Councillor Scott is present, as is Councillor Thompson. Looking for Councillor Walker. Not seeing anything from Councillor Walker at the moment, and Councillor Watson is also present at the meeting. In terms of our external representation, John Mulligan is present. I have apologies from Dr Nagi Iskander. I'm looking for Gillian Coulter, and I'm not seeing Gillian present at the meeting. Jennifer Gaffney is present, as is Joan Lennon. I have apologies from Naomi Baxter, and Christine Hall is in attendance at the meeting. There are a number of officers also present at the meeting, and I'll hand back to you, Chair, for today's business.
Thanks very much, Pauline. Before we start, I'd like to welcome Jacqueline Wallace to her new role, and I hope that you do well and have fun along the way. Maybe. But welcome to your new role. Agenda item number 1 is declaration of interest. Do I have any declarations? No. Item number 2 is minutes of the previous meeting. So we've got Bert.
Say that I'll be leaving the meeting early this morning, so apologies there. I've got a civic duty today, but apologies about that, okay?
Thanks, Bert, that's fine. Thanks very much. Minutes of the previous meeting, pages 5 to 14. Is MD get any questions? Nope, I'll approve this as a correct record of the minutes of the previous meeting. I have been asked for an item of urgent business. I am minded not to take this as an item of urgent business and ask Carol to update the committee at this moment in time on the Thai campaign motion, which was at full council. This has been discussed thoroughly at full council, and it will be brought back to this committee in November, so the discussion can take place in November when the paper comes forward. But I'll ask Carol to update just now. Thank you.
Sorry, that's you. Thanks, Councillor Hamilton. Yes, obviously after the last full council meeting, we took back the motion to our own resource to take forward, and we are well underway with getting a full paper to the next Education Resources Committee in November, and included in this will be a survey of schools that we are doing prior to compiling that committee paper, so that the Education Resources have a full picture of what's going on in our schools and what our proposals would be to take forward the training recommendations. So all in order this end. Thanks.
Thanks very much for that, Carol. Gavin and I have also met with Ty and have met with Education Resources to discuss it further. So the full discussion will take place in November. Ross, is your question on this, or is it on something else? Yeah, I'm going to. The full discussion will take place in November. Ross, thanks very much. I'm just going to head on to the other agenda item. Thank you very much. Can I move on to Education Resources agenda item number 3, revenue budget monitoring, and can I ask Louise Harvey to take that? Thanks.
Good morning and thank you, Chair. So this is the second report to committee on the new financial year 23-24, covering the revenue budget position from the 1st of April through to the 11th of August this year. Paragraph 4 on page 15 outlines the budget position in relation to the Scottish Attainment Challenge funding. And for PEF, we're showing spend and commitment to date as at the 11th of August of 3.079 million, with 6.787 million still to spend. This does include known staffing costs for the period April through to August. However, the staffing for the new school session from the 16th of August is not yet reflected in this position, and that will be updated in the next report. In relation to CEF, the Strategic Equity Fund, the spend and commitment to date is 1,092,000, with 0.381 million still to spend, and this does include all the known staffing for the period through to the 31st of March 24, reflected within the position, and committee will continue to be updated with the spend position across the financial year. Turning to the main financial implications of the report, paragraph 6.1 on page 16, Education is reporting a break-even position against the phase budget. Now, this is an early position for education, and it doesn't yet reflect a lot of the changes associated with the new school session from August. We are, however, highlighting 2 main areas of financial risks and areas where we are working to reduce costs and ensure risk is mitigated as much as possible. Firstly, the cost of transport. We've been notified of a significant increase in costs associated with mainstream transport via SPT. This is a continuation of the financial issues from last financial year, as you know, but to an increased level. The resource is working with SPT to consider contracts awards and minimise variations. However, this in the main is due to inflationary costs and operational issues around contract delivery, driver availability and the specific nature of SLC contract requirements. From a financial perspective, we are looking to fund options via underspend in other areas of our budget and reserve balances to support this issue. The second area is in relation to teacher numbers. Funding supporting the commitment to maintaining teacher and support staff numbers has been retained this year by the Scottish Government until local authorities have evidenced via the pupil teacher census that numbers have been maintained to last year's levels. This is a change in policy from the Scottish Government. However, there has been no reduction to the funding levels in total, but 45.5 million nationally, and that equals 2.934 million for South Lanarkshire, has been held pending the commitment being made, and this requirement is baselined against the reported 2022 census position. Senior officers have been liaising with the Scottish Government since the start of the financial year to outline the Council's position, as a reduction in numbers is anticipated compared to last year. Last year we had a number of teachers. The number of teachers was inflated in relation to our core staffing, and as you'll know, this was due to Council's own investment in learning recovery and also additional temporary COVID support for learning recovery, which were in place to June 23. They were never intended to be assumed as core levels of staffing against which the Council should be measured. The Scottish Government has advised no decision has been taken on releasing the funding until after the census 22-23 has been finalised, and therefore there is a risk of 2.934 million may not be received. In relation to the main financial variances outlined in Appendix A of the report, we have underspends in our early years core staffing and over recovery of our early years fees, and these in the main are supporting the cost of transport that I've referred to, and also the cost of external placements for pupils with additional support needs. We have our standard budget environments, and these are proposed as set out at the bottom of Appendix A and reflect initial budget movements in Education's new year budget covering the period from the 19th of May when we last reported through to the 11th of August, and cover the following main areas. Transfers from reserves for project delivery, transfers from corporate items including the Teachers' Pay Award 22-23 and support for independent schools, creation of budget in relation to external funding, particularly the summer programmes, funding from the Health and Social Care Partnership, Ukrainian support for education and our youth employability, and also the standard realignments of budget to reflect how we spend our CEF and PEF programmes, and also the normal activities that go on within our devolved scheme of management and the EMA payment scheme. So if I can refer committee back to paragraph 2, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations: that a break-even position on Education's revenue budget as at the 11th of August as detailed in Appendix A of the report be noted, and that the proposed budget environments are approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Louise. The recommendations are on page 15. Any questions? I see Councillor Watson is wanting in. Oh, you pop it back on, David.
Thanks, Chair. If I'm reading correctly here and what I'm hearing correctly, is that potentially we could be losing £3 million, just under £3 million on the teacher number issue. Only because we as a council took a decision to inflate our teacher numbers beyond the core. I think that's a terrible position that we're getting put in by the government, to be honest. If we're reaching our core, we should surely be entitled to full allocation of funds and not be punished for in previous years increasing the number of teachers. So I would hope every group in this council would use whatever lobbying efforts they've got to make sure that this council is not punished by nearly £3 million as we go into very, very tough financial situation in the new year. And I just hope there are folk in this room and the council beat their gums plenty about other things, so let's see if they can beat their gums about the council potentially losing £3 million for something that's unwarranted. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, David. I think you've got it exactly right. In going into the financial situation that we're looking at, it would be highly disappointing if we had to find an additional £3 million worth of cuts for something that was for the good. So yeah, definitely we support your position. Thanks very much. I don't think that needs an answer, Louise, but I'll if you're all right with that, David, we will. Oh, Councillor Logan.
Now I've got two things. I think, Chair, what Councillor Watson said is absolutely right. And maybe if you made a motion saying that collectively, as a council, we should move to write to the Education Minister and state our case as to why we think it's unfair. We sent a letter recently via the Chief Executive in another matter. So I think we should not just say, well, each group could do this or that. So if we collectively maybe made a motion to say that we should send jointly, everybody here, a letter to say that we should be writing to the Scottish Minister on this issue, because it is a lot of money. And then I'll say my other bit and then you can say what you think, David. On the risk register that we produce, is transport on our risk registers, high up on our risk registers, because transport and transport costs and issues in transport not going to go away anytime soon, as any person who drives a car or does anything else will tell you. Money-wise, what you said, availability, staff, different things, it comes across our desks at all times. And in the Strathclyde area, we're under SPT. It it seems to be that we don't have the biggest handle on the situation because we're relying on external forces to run our business for us. So is that, I couldn't see it here, but I'm assuming it's high up in the risk registers. Thank you.
Thanks very much for that. Lynn, can you come in that, please?
Thank you. Just to say, yes, it is in the risk register. Finance in general, the financial position in general, and then the savings. So both sides of the house, I guess, the financial pressures that resources, including ourselves, are feeling from a variety of areas, transport being one of them, and then the savings, the whole kind of thing as regards finance is on the risk register very much so. Yeah.
Thanks. And can I ask Carol to come in on the teacher numbers, please?
Thank you. Yes, I welcome those points, and we don't disagree that it would be in a really quite a regrettable position if we were penalised for failing to meet our teacher numbers this year. What I would say is that this exercise has not been fully finalised. We are hopeful that we might. We don't have an absolute answer as yet. And what I would also say is that Paul Manning and I are meeting a representative from the Senior Civil Service to talk about this issue in the coming weeks in terms of putting our own views across. But if the committee wished to take forward a motion, that would be something that we could get behind. Thanks.
Lynn, do you want back in? No, it's just your microphone. It's on. David?
Yeah, I think that's quite an important point. That I think surely from this meeting here we can note our concerns and whether that's done in writing or by the director taking it to the meeting that the Education Committee has met. We note this and we're concerned about the potential that this could happen, and what would be totally aghast if it was to happen. So I think we've got that remit here to do that today. I think it's my question, really.
Councillor Logan, do you want to bring forward a motion or? Oh.
Well, I think anything to help Carol and Paul Manning when they go to meet. If it's not the minister, I'm assuming, then it's a senior civil servant, who I assume then has to go to the minister to get whatever sanctions or whatever they're going to be doing. So I don't think it would be amiss, if it's legal and we're able to do it, to send a letter collectively, each and every party, everybody here, to say why we're supporting our team.
Yep. Okay, so I'm happy to I'm happy to take that forward. If anyone is otherwise minded, can you let me know? Councillor Clark.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Just to ask for some specific clarity in what is being proposed, it could be, just outline what we're agreeing to, because I know a few things have been said.
Yep. Basically, what I think Councillor Logan is proposing is that we write to, as an education committee, we write to the Minister for Education, Jenny Goldruth, to say that we don't support the fact that they're looking to take £3 million. They're withholding the £3 million due to the fact that the reason why our teacher numbers might be skewed is because we invested more in our teachers with COVID money. So we support. Every political party, hopefully in this committee, support that £3 million is given to the council, considering the dire situation that we're facing coming in upcoming budgets, which I presume is with maintaining their statutory teacher numbers. Councillor Loudon.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hamilton. That was quite a lot of information. Could we have a break and have that written? I just think, in principle, I'm sure we would all agree that this is something which we're all concerned about, as many people, and colleague Ross has just said. Just conscious of what you said there isn't really referring to the fact that Carol has just informed us she's got a meeting coming up, so I think it'd be helpful if that was included as well in a letter. So if we are having a motion which is proposing certain wording of a letter, could we have a break and maybe have that written down, please?
Yep, we'll take a 5-minute break, thank you. Is that everything all right? Karen can vote here. Love it. Yep. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about how a wee bit longer that took there. Everybody should now have a copy of the motion in front of them. Just a wee typo at the end after where the in places because of funding should include initiatives by the council at the end of it. It's just due to the quickness of how this has been done that there's just a wee error. So have I got a proposer for the motion? Councillor Logan, and a seconder, Councillor Watson. Is there anyone otherwise minded? Councillor Lydon. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. We'll say that it looks very similar to cross-party statement, which has already been agreed cross-party and put out by COSLA, so on that basis I'm quite happy to accept it. Just to ask quickly if we can receive a final copy of any letter that's sent to members of the Education Committee, please.
Yep, so that will be sent by the Chief Executive's office, so I presume that that's not an issue. Okay, thank you very much. Moving, so I've yeah, that's fine. So can we then agree the report with the additional recommendation that's been included? Great. Heading on to agenda item number 4, Education Resources Capital Budget Monitoring 2023 to 2024, pages 19 to 22, and can I invite Lorraine to speak to that?
Good morning, committee. This is the agenda item 4 on page 19, I think, of the papers, and it's the standard capital budget monitoring report for the year. It's the second report in the current year, and it reflects the budget and spend position to the 11th of August 2023, which is our accounting period 5. Section 3 gives the background to the report and explains that the budget is based on the overall capital programme that we approved at the start of the year, with amendments approved by the Executive Committee in August and September of the current year. So that gives us a revised budget of £19.333 million. Section 5 details the financial implications, and Section 5.1 specifically notes the total capital programme for the year of the £19.333 million. That budget is a net increase of £286,000 since the last report in June, and that reflects the approved adjustments broken down in Appendix A of your report this morning. Finally, Section 5.3 then notes the anticipated spend at the 11th of August was £5.824 million, and actual spend to that date was £5.433 million, so we had an underspend of £391,000. And that's mainly attributed to the new Wooddean Early Learning Centre, formerly Clyde Terrace as we called it previously, which has experienced some operational slippage due to relocating certain utilities, including telecoms and sewerage. And we did know this, and we have advised members of this in the past. And this is just catching up in terms of the timeframes. So the handover of the facility from the contractor is still anticipated to take place in late November 2023. So that's no change. I would then look to refer committee back to the recommendation section 2 and note the education resources budget of £19.333 million and the spend to the 11th of August of £5.433 million be noted. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Lorraine. The recommendations are on page 19. Is there any questions? I can't see any. I'll ask the committee to agree the report. Agreed. Thank you very much. Agenda item number 5, Education Resources Workforce Monitoring, May to July 2023, pages 23 to 30, and I'll ask Michelle to speak to this report. Thanks.
Thank you and good morning. This report provides standard employment information for the resource for the period May to July 2023. You will see that section 4.1 outlines attendance information for committee, and the details are in Appendix 1. The absence rate for the resource for July is 2.2%, which is a decrease of 1.2% compared to the previous month, and compared to last year, the figure has decreased by 0.3%. The projected annual average for the resource is 4.5% compared to council-wide, which is 5.5%. You will be aware from previous committee meetings that the resource managers continue to follow the maximising attendance procedures and work with personnel colleagues to ensure all the supports are in place to enable employees to return to work and that appropriate actions are taken. And this is demonstrated by a consistent reduction in absence rates when compared to the same period last year. I would also say that the personnel team and managers also work very, very closely with the trade unions around any absence issues, and these are discussed regularly through the JICC and the JTUC as appropriate. At section 4.2 to 4.5, the details of which are in Appendix 2, the main points I would highlight during that period are 354 occupational health referrals, 4 disciplinary hearings, no grievances or dignity at work issues raised, and there were 232 accident incidents during that period, although there is a slight lag around reporting which we continue to work on, which you'll be aware of, in terms of when incidents happen and when they're on the system. There were also 60 leavers and 16% completed exit interviews. There are details of vacant posts at Appendix 2A, and 104 posts became vacant during this period. Of that, 100 posts were filled, 1 was held pending a review of the service, and 2 were due to the end of a fixed term contract, and 1 was filled on a full-time basis. In terms of discussions that have taken place at last committee, I just wanted to reinforce that the number of medicals were queried before, and this was questioned because absence rates had fallen. And again, the same explanation exists in that there were increased ill health referrals due to ill health retirement. And again, there has been additional referrals due to long-term absences. There's been a focus by personnel and managers to support employees and encourage employees back to work and give them support that they're needed. And you will all be aware, in terms of accidents and incidents, there is work ongoing nationally as well as locally, and we have surveyed employees in schools around accidents and incidents, and these results are currently being analysed. In addition, psychological services have also undertaken some research. All this work is ongoing at present, and it is anticipated that this will be brought back to committee by the end of the year in terms of report around this activity. I would refer committee back to section 2 and ask that the workforce monitoring information for education resources for the period May to July 23 be noted.
Thanks, Michelle. The recommendations are on page 23. Can I bring in Councillor Frame? Thank you.
Hi, thanks very much, Chair. I've just got a couple of questions. The first question I'm not going to totally ask now because it's just been spoken about, so I'm just going to change it to a comment. Obviously, it's stated in the paper there were 232 accidents/incidents recorded in this period. That was an increase of 32 compared to last year. Although it's very concerning that we're still got increased accidents and incidents, and I was going to ask for obviously for more information on this, but it's just stated that there is a process put in place to gather that information, so I want to welcome that, because this is another committee again with more papers that are stating that this is a problem for this committee, so I'm glad that there is going to be more work done on that. My other question is, there's a total of 60 leavers in the resource, which is an increase from 19 for last year. Can we have an explanation why there's only 10 exit interviews carried out? Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Frame. I wonder as well if we could maybe have an update on the national stuff that's going on around the violence in the work against teachers. I know that there's been a few things going on around that, so I know it's a national issue. Michelle, that would maybe be useful if that's okay. Can I bring you in to answer that and Councillor Frame's other question? Thanks.
Yes, thanks. What I would say about the initial comment is we do have a significant amount of background information in terms of the establishments, in terms of the young people. Obviously, we wouldn't circulate that or discuss that in public. We would want to identify anybody. But certainly what we can do is provide a breakdown of some of that. I think that would be beneficial for committee to see that. Also, what I would want to highlight is that for example, some of the outcomes of those supports might be that someone in mainstream moves to an ASN establishment. They may be offered nurture provision or other supports, and that we also support staff during any of these instances, because some of the instances might be just involving pupils or young people, and other instances might involve other adults in the school, so we can provide a breakdown of that. In terms of the national activity, what we will do is we'll wrap that up into the update that we bring to committee in November, because we'll have to contextualise some of the local activity alongside of that, and we will bring back information on our survey results. We have been discussing that at ITCU with trade unions actually as well, and they're very, very involved in that, and if there's any other additional activity that we need to do in the back of that, we will. In terms of leavers, it's very difficult for us. We do have various methods of trying to encourage people to participate in exit interviews at various stages from the point in time that they notify us that they are going to be leaving. So that is kind of contact with employee, contact with managers. There's also the kind of independence to be able to do exit interviews online and privately, maybe if people didn't want to maybe declare anything in front of anybody. So we do continue to do that. We are hoping that in the future, with our increase in self-service activity, which will come through the implementation of Fusion in the future, that more people will have easier access, maybe to be able to do that. But we do still encourage people to do it. It doesn't seem to be working as well as we hope, but we will continue to try to increase that, because that information is very, very valuable.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Michelle. That's useful. Is there any other questions or comments? Not that I can see, so I'll ask the committee to agree with the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Can I move on to agenda item number 6, which is the Education Resources Plan Q4 Progress Report 2022 to 23, pages 31 to 68, and I'll ask Des to come in that. Thanks, Des.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is to provide the committee with an update on the Q4 Progress Report, which covers the period the 1st of April 2022 to the 31st of March 2023, which of course is 6 months ago, as my maths serves me right, and takes us up to the end of that financial year. Members may recall the Education Resources Plan for 2022-23, which was shaped and influenced by the views of our staff, children and young people, parents, families and counsellors, and the professional associations, sets out our key priorities for our schools and services. The Education Resources Plan was approved in August 2022 and includes the actions and measures for the year ahead, and which are also closely linked to the Council Plan Connect, which we commonly refer to as the Golden Thread, and details are shown in Appendix 1 on page 38. At paragraph 5 on page 32, we described how Education Resources, in line with the Council's performance management reporting system called Improve, uses a traffic light format to report on progress. In paragraph 5.2, we show the overall status of progress, and I'm pleased to report this morning that we had no red measures, that's carry forwards, and full details of all progress against all of our actions and measures in our Education Resources Plan is shown on Appendix 2, pages 39 to 67. In paragraph 5.3, we highlight a number of key achievements to reflect the range of learning and teaching that is provided in our nurseries, schools and services right across South Lanarkshire. Chair, if I may want to highlight one or two of those that are showing in the report this morning, and perhaps that's all right.
Yep.
Certainly, we would want to reflect the involvement of our schools and young people in the COP in the COST conference way back in October 2022, and that keeps the flag flying for what we call climate change and sustainability issues. Undoubtedly, success comes in different formats, and again we were pleased to see that Scottish Education Awards, where we had Netherburn Primary winning an award, and obviously the Youth Family Community Learning Service in 2022 winning awards as well, and a whole lot of different others. We also reference the daily work that goes on in our schools and services in tackling poverty, literacy and numeracy, closing the equity gap, and health and well-being. And clearly, along with the extension or expansion of our early years childcare in 1140 hours, and a whole list there of achievements, of vocational achievements of young people, which I think merit being reported on this morning. So, Chair, the committee, it's a lengthy report. The committee is asked to approve the following recommendations in paragraph 2. That the Education Resources Plan Q4 Progress Report, as summarised in paragraph 5.2 and attached as Appendix 2 of this report, be noted. That the key achievements made by the resource to date, well, that was previously, as detailed in paragraph 5.3 of this report, be noted. And that it be noted that there were no areas identified for improvement, and that the additional scrutiny of changes in BRAG is the blue, red and amber green status between Q2 and Q4, as summarised in paragraph 5 and detailed in Appendix 3 of this report, be noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Des. Thank you very much for that report. It's always really interesting to read the stuff in the progress reports and highlighting the achievements that the young people have made in the resource. Can I ask if there's any questions? The recommendations are on page 31. Yeah, Councillor Allison.
Thanks, Chair. It's more an observation because it is a very good report. Everything green and moving forward, which is good. Looking at likes of Appendix 1, where they're talking about the objectives and the connect outcome and resource outcome, I'm not sure that everything under the resource outcome is actually an outcome. It's a means to an end rather than an end in itself. Providing a rich and stimulating curriculum is a means to raising standards, but it doesn't actually identify if we have raised standards. So I don't know whether it's entitled wrong and we're needing to report back when these programmes have been affected, if you like, Des, or how we take it forward. It's more an observation.
Thanks, Councillor Allison. I'll bring in Des on that.
Yeah, thanks, Councillor Allison, and I think that observation is well made. I think it's partly the system and the way that we report on that performance. As you know, performance is reported at the scrutiny group, and those resource outcomes are really our priorities listed to show how we can take forward the council priorities. So yes, it is a bit bureaucratic on that one. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Des. So if there is no further questions, can I ask the... Oh, sorry, Carol.
I mean, on that point, in terms of, performance information, I think Des' observation is well made about some of the kind of processes and the timing of being able to report on performance information. And I'd like to reassure committee that at the very end of this committee today, everybody will be issued with a copy of our standards and quality report, which will give some very hard evidence in terms of attainment and performance over the whole of last session. So that will be following at the end of committee. Thanks.
Thanks, Carol. Can we agree the report?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Note that it is 11 o'clock. However, since we've already had a significant break in the committee, then I'm minded not to take a break at this point in time, and the next break will be at 11:45 in line with when we started the committee after the previous adjournment. So I'll continue on to items for decision. Agenda item number 7, underage use of e-cigarettes and vaping, pages 69 to 76. And can I invite Des to speak to this report?
Thanks again, Chair. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the steps being taken by Education Resources to raise awareness amongst children and young people on the potential risk to their health through vaping and the environmental damage being caused due to irresponsible discarding of these products. If I can remind committee, members may recall that on the 24th of May 2023, the Council considered a motion in terms of Standing Order number 20, submitted on the 9th of May 2023, which stated that South Lanarkshire Council is concerned at the health and environmental harm caused by the increasing use, particularly by young people, of disposable nicotine vapour products. So perhaps the question this morning, Chair, is what is the evidence-based approach to this? What are we going to do? In paragraph 3.3, we report that public health information shows that there is increasing e-cigarette use amongst young people across Scotland. In South Lanarkshire, it is reported that there has been an 18-fold rise in disposable vapes amongst vape users in the period from January 21 to April 22. And with it being reported that around 1 in 10 15-year-olds perhaps regularly vape, and that information is coming from health. So what can we do in education resources to support young people? In paragraph 3.4, we highlight that this is a societal issue and not one for schools to tackle alone. Therefore, it will require a wider and better understanding of the impact of vaping on children and young people's health and on the identified public risk factor of smoking addiction. And of course, there is environmental risks, as I mentioned earlier, associated with discarding vaping products in our communities. Whilst parental and personal responsibility remain the key factors to effect change, along with better information on the public health risks, there is nevertheless a role for schools to play in raising awareness of these risks and in helping to be catalysts of change for our children and young people. So in paragraph 3.7, we describe that one way of doing this is through the health and wellbeing curriculum, supported by a public health information campaign. And just to add, Chair, we have already had a couple of meetings with colleagues in public health around this particular matter. In paragraph 4, on page 70, we highlight the actions that were agreed by the Council on the 24th of May this year. And if I can ask the committee, that our focus is on 4.1 Roman numeral number 3, which is the main focus for this report and for education resources to take forward. So the next steps for schools and educational establishments are highlighted in the attached action plan at Appendix 1 in paragraph 4.4. And we also highlight in paragraph 4.4 some key aspects that will be taken forward in partnership with our colleagues in public health. And you can see there the high emphasis on the health and wellbeing curriculum about strong and informed choice messages. In paragraph 5, we describe how education resources will take the lead on curriculum-based activities, and they're listed for you this morning. In paragraph 6, we express that this requires a holistic approach through the Council and its partners. And in paragraph 6, we highlight again the Council's position in relating to a call for a ban on single-use vapes and various other activities that we can take forward, including our colleagues in environmental health who will be doing the dialogue and engagement with the sellers of vapes and in looking at what they can do in terms of enforcement. And again, to reiterate to committee this morning, Chair, we have had meetings with environmental health on that particular matter, and they have a work stream to take forward. And at the time of writing this report, you can see in paragraph 7 that the Scottish Government announced on 5th of September in its programme for government its intent to ban single-use vaping products in response to the concerns over their negative environmental and health effects. And noticing at the weekend, even providers like Superdrug have announced recently their plans to withdraw the sale of single vape from their sale there. So, Chair, it's quite a lengthy report, quite a detailed report in there. There are actions to be taken forward. We're just at the beginning of a journey on this one, and education are looking to take that forward through the curriculum, the health and wellbeing curriculum, and also to engage with our partners, particularly in health, about using evidence-based information. That's very important for, I think, to take that forward. So, committee is asked to take forward the recommendation, which is that the Council's position relating to a call for a ban on single-use vapes due to their health and environmental harm is noted, and that the approval be given for education resources to take the lead on curriculum-based activities designed to raise awareness amongst children and young people as described in paragraph 5, and that the steps be taken forward by Education Resources in partnership with NHSL Public Health and other partners as highlighted in paragraph 6 and also in the action plan shown on Appendix 1 be approved. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much, Des, and thank you very much for bringing forward this really detailed paper. You can see the power of work that's went into it, so please go back to the officers and let them know that we really appreciate this because it's such a big issue, and we'll continue. I feel you'd say that this is just the beginning on what is going to happen with it. But if you walk down the street, even if you walked out there, you would find a disposable vape. So thank you very much. I'll bring in Councillor Frame just now on it.
Thanks very much, Chair, and I want to thank Des for that lengthy report. I'm glad to see the work that's been started on this since the motion that I seconded in full council came forward. I have to say I'm still a wee bit disappointed that today we're still not any further forward with the communication to the schools. I was at a recent PM Council at Straven Academy and it is still a huge issue at Straven Academy. Now, when I brought the motion forward, part of the motion was documentation going into the schools. There's still not any documentation in the schools. We're still looking for posters to put up to alert kids how dangerous this is. We've still not done any of that. It's an epidemic in our schools. Our teachers are still having to man toilets instead of teaching in classes. So I think, yes, the work that has been done is great, but we have to do this in a more speedily manner, and there has to be things done to help our schools just now. And sorry, my second point is, I understand what you're saying about people contact me about shops selling these, and there's maybe Superdrug recently have came out and said that they're not going to sell them, they're going to take them off their market. What are we doing about the shops that have been witnessed and have been publicised that only open during these school times to sell the vapes? And what they've said is that they will take the fine that they're given because they still earn more money by selling vapes. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. I'm not sure that Des will be able to answer the licensing issue there, but there is obviously a national issue in this that is much higher than Education Resources, but I'll pass to Des to cover the points that you can. See if you, yeah. Don't turn it off. Now I can't get it. Oh.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, sorry about that, Councillor Frame, that wee delay there. No, I think your points are well made, and maybe I'll take the second one, which is out with the locus of education. Rest assured that we've had an initial meeting with Environmental Health, and Environmental Health, that's where the responsibility lies for shops and sales and providers. So it's not one that education can play a part in. But rest assured, we are aware of the concerns coming from our schools that you rightly mentioned. I think in terms of the communications, I think one of the aspects, I think you're absolutely right, in May when the motion was taken forward, we kind of came out the traps and had those meetings and what we could and couldn't do. And one of the key things around the posters and trying to do that prevention is to work closely with public health, because this is a Scottish-wide campaign, and I do share your concerns coming through from schools, but really what we want to do is try and make sure that we're tied in on that evidence-based approach, because these things are still for sale, you know, whether we like it or not legally, but our focus will be on raising the health impact and obviously about trying to encourage young people to make informed choices in the future. So again, after this meeting, certainly we've got another link up with public health and we'll look to try and get that communication out quicker. Thank you.
Thanks, Des. Councillor Frame, do you want back in that point?
Hi, thank you. It was just an observation then, Des. I think that one of the issues is maybe a wee bit lack of communication, because the schools would have been, ideally, they would maybe been better faced if they had this communication that what the work has been done. As far as some of the schools, they're not hearing anything. So what they're thinking is nothing getting done, so we need to communicate better with our schools. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. I don't think Des needs to come back in that point. Can I have Councillor McGeever?
Thanks very much, Chair. I'm not used to dialing in, so hopefully everyone can hear me okay and I'm not shouting and deafening everyone in the room, so apologies. I just want to say that the steps taken in this report are good ones, I think, and I do look forward to seeing more done as soon as possible. But it is a societal problem. It's one schools can't be expected to solve alone. That said, anything and everything that they do will certainly help. My group proposed the motion. It was great at the time to see full support for it, and including from Councillor Frame. It's certainly welcome that the training of staff has continued and that the funding has been found to continue or extend the contract of a relevant post. I think it's important that people know that these are smoking products covered by existing laws, and it's worthwhile reminding everyone that South Lanarkshire Trading Standards have undertaken test purchases under the licensing laws, and these recently resulted in fines being issued to, and I think it was about 71 fines were actually issued to retailers in the area selling vapes to under 18s. I know that schools, that's obviously not an education issue, but it's worth getting out there. I know that schools continue to do everything they can to help protect children from these products and young people from harm, and I look forward to the committee seeing further information about that in due course. But just to thank everyone for the work to date. Cheers.
Thanks, Mark. Councillor Logan?
Thanks very much, Chair. It was an excellent report and excellent information for people to digest and maybe take forward. And I absolutely agree that it's a national problem, and that this council can do the things that this council can do. But surely at some point or another as well, I think it's right, health colleagues, parents have to come into it. At one time, it was seen as being okay for people to smoke, and then it was, a gradual process that it's not acceptable really for people to be smoking in streets or in pubs or clubs or side of the school or wherever it happens to be that they want to smoke. But I don't think this council alone can tackle the problem, and it needs to go further and be a national campaign. Even when we're talking about trading standards going out to people and to fining people, that's only a drop in the ocean, and it's very, very difficult to catch the shops or whoever it is that's doing it. And then again, we don't have hundreds of staff which you would need. So I think if the Scottish Government is intent on knocking this in the head, we're only one component to help actually the Scottish Government, and therefore they need to put the money into this campaign and make it a national campaign. And yes, we have to deal with what's ours, i.e. going to schools and educate and put up posters and things like that. But that's only one small part. So I think we should be in the forefront and also engaging with, as Des said, all the other components of the whole picture.
Thanks, Eileen. Councillor Watson?
Thanks, Chair. I welcome this report, and while I acknowledge the frustration from Councillor Frame and maybe some of the delays, I think we need to acknowledge as well that we're asking our education staff to take this on board and promote it while they're still doing their other jobs. And I'm imagining they've not had extra resources to do this, so I think we need to acknowledge that. And I think more importantly, we need to acknowledge that we need to get the messaging right, and I would rather get it right than rushed. And I know you're talking to public health, etc., but as I say, rather than rush it out, let's get the messaging right, the posters right, the narrative right, and all the rest of it, so that we are sending out a clear message that's been researched properly and can hit the nail on the head. Thanks, yeah.
Thanks, Councillor Watson. Councillor Loudon.
Thanks very much, Chair. First of all, I'd like to agree with your comments about thanking officers for their work on this and bringing it forward. I know that Councillor Frame had previously had concerns about the apparent delay in seeing this after a motion, and she had an item of urgent business allowed on that, incidentally, unlike today. So it's good to hear reassurance from Des that this work has been going on straight out of the blocks. I hope that is also the case on the other motion which you've referred to today, because that's what my questions were around. I would also like to thank Elise for her tenacity on this issue as well and continuing to push it forward. Thank you to Des for that reassurance that this is going to be tied in very closely with public health messaging, because I agree with Councillor Watson here, we absolutely need to get that messaging right. So my question is really around what we've got on page 74 at the moment, where we've got X's in place of which primary pupils might be involved or which secondary pupils might be involved in any sort of poster competition, and it's a bit of a blank space there around who will be judging that. This is just a plea. Can we make sure that this meaningful engagement with young people around that public information and these materials? I'm not talking about the guidance for schools, which Elise was referring to, and I think there's a wee bit of that being sort of mixed in together when Councillor Watson was speaking specifically about messaging such as posters. Can we make sure there's meaningful engagement with young people so that is effective? We know that we've had wonderful posters produced before by our young people on issues such as road safety, for example. We just need to make sure that this messaging is correct for the audience. So as I say, it's just a wee plea. The tying with public health is great, but can we make sure there's meaningful engagement with the intended audiences here, particularly in our high schools?
Thanks, Des.
Yeah, I think, Chair, thanks very much, Councillor Loudon, for those comments, and I think that whole essence of there is about that engagement with children and young people. They will be key partners in this with health and moving that along, so thank you for that.
Thanks very much, Des, for that. Can I, the recommendations are on page 69. Can I ask the committee to agree the report? Agreed. Thank you very much. That was a good discussion on a very important topic. And as we say, it's only the start of the process, I'm sure, but it is a wider issue that I'm pretty sure a lot of parts of the council can play their role in, and also at a national level as well. So thank you very much. Can I move on to agenda item number 8, the Youth, Family and Community Learning Service Multiply Adult Numeracy Initiative, pages 77 to 80, and can I ask Anne to speak to that?
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. The purpose of this report is to advise Committee of allocated multiply funds for Youth, Family Community Learning, and of the planned delivery model and associated staffing requirements, including the need to have the appointments made early in the new term as a matter of urgency. Section 3 gives the background to the report, and paragraph 3.1 describes how the UK Shared Prosperity Fund is the UK Government's main intended replacement for European Union structural funds, and was announced in June 2021. It forms part of the UK Government's Levelling Up strategy, which is intended to be targeted at areas identified as most in need. Paragraph 3.3 describes how, within the overall budget, a sum of money is ring-fenced to fund the Multiply Adult Numeracy Initiative. To meet the UK Government's priority of enhancing adult numeracy, each area is required to invest a ring-fenced amount of money to fund local multiply interventions. Paragraph 3.5 describes how the Youth, Family and Community Learning Service will deliver interventions to support the priorities listed in that paragraph. And turning then to section 4, which describes the Youth, Family and Community Learning Service planned delivery of the project. And in paragraph 4.2, in addition to participation in functional numeracy courses that will build skills and enrich their lives, paragraph 4.4 describes how a key feature of the project will be the delivery of specific interventions to engage parents to support their own and their child's learning. The Youth, Family and Community Learning Service will build on existing relationships with schools to ensure maximum impact is achieved. Paragraph 4.5 describes how inputs will be designed to attract learners from SIMD areas into financial literacy programmes to better understand daily life challenges, such as bills and how to seek out the best possible deals online, for example. Using partnerships, such as the Financial Inclusion Network, YFCL will target provision where the need is greatest and across partners to maximise knowledge and understanding of the provision. Section 5 describes how the programme will be monitored and evaluated, and I would ask committee to note that monitoring and evaluation of engagement and participation, learner progress and impact will be carried out using agreed YFCL service and partnership measures, including those already detailed in the CLD 3-year strategic plan. In addition, paragraph 5.5 describes that all necessary measures to ensure compliance will be reported through agreed reporting mechanisms for the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. Employee implications are detailed in section 6, and in paragraph 6.1 it's noted that 4 YFCL officers for numeracy will be in post for the duration of the funding until March 2025. These team members will be embedded into the current adult literacy and numeracy and English for speakers of other languages teams and will benefit from co-location with that larger team. Paragraph 6.2 describes how the team leader post will support development of the Multiply project, in addition to supporting the existing wider Allen and ESOL delivery. And recent extension to the Allen and ESOL team necessitates the need for this post to support the existing coordinator. Paragraph 6.3 details the proposal for the posts to be added to the establishment until the 31st of March 25, and the costs are detailed in the table at 6.3. Financial implications are detailed in section 7, and at paragraph 7.2 I would ask committee to note that these costs will be covered by the shared prosperity funding for the period of the project. So turning back then to paragraph 2 or section 2, the recommendations are that the committee is asked to approve the following recommendations. Number 1, that the requirement to have posts added to the establishment to meet the additionality purpose of the fund be noted. 2, that the proposed additional posts detailed in paragraph 6 and the financial costs in paragraph 7 of the report be agreed, and the posts temporarily added to the Youth, Family and Community Learning Service establishment to deliver the numbers count project be approved. And 3, that the continued commitment to vulnerable learners and the actions to develop their skills and confidence through the Youth, Family and Community Learning Service activities is noted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Anne. The recommendations are on page 77. Councillor Loudon.
Oh, hello, Chair. Sorry, I had lost connection there, and I didn't have my hand up set my microphone, and I'm not sure what has happened. So something to look into. Thanks.
All right, okay. Councillor Watson.
Thanks, Chair. It's probably more a practical question, in so much that this is funding until March, when was it, 2025. I think, what happens after that? I mean, I'm assuming these are temporary posts. In the past, we might have been able to, if we staff in these sort of temporary contacts, there might have been opportunities to embed them in education somewhere else. I'm assuming where we're going budget-wise, that's going to be very limited in the future. And also, with that being the case, what are the likelihoods of getting suitable candidates to take on these sort of posts and with little long-term job prospects?
Thanks, Anne.
Thank you for that. I think that you raise pertinent issues in relation to the temporary nature of the posts, and I think the issues that you do raise are applicable to a number of posts within the council just now. What I would say is that the monitoring and evaluation elements attached to the project mean that we'll have an eye, on an ongoing basis in relation to the impact and outcomes related to these posts, and then any decision to support the project or a similar project in the future will be based on good information linked to impact and outcomes. So in terms of decisions for the future, I guess they are decisions for the future, and we couldn't preempt continued funding or funding from another source. But you know that the council is always kind of alert to the opportunities in relation to other funding as well. Service reviews do take place too, and sometimes opportunities come up in the course of those reviews. So it's part of the big picture really in terms of the deployment of personnel. Your second question was, and it's dropped out of my head. Yeah, yeah. To do this kind of work, you do need an additional qualification. And what I understand from the manager, the new manager of the Youth Family Community Learning Services, that we have actually had a fairly high number of applicants for the posts. There are people who do decide to study additionally to do this kind of work, and we do have decent applications for the posts. So pleased about that.
Thanks very much for that update. If there's no other questions, I'll ask the committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Agenda item number 9, school holiday dates 2024 to 25, pages 81 to 84. And I'll ask Des to come in.
Thanks, Chair. I'm conscious of time and I'll try and keep this one brief. We've not talked about performance and how we're going and all the good things going on, and here we are at school holiday dates. So the purpose of this report is actually to let committee know of the proposed dates for school holidays in South Lanarkshire for 2024-25, following a consultation with a wide variety of stakeholders. As you can see in paragraph 3, it's worth reminding ourselves that children are required to attend school for 190 days, with teachers working 195, 5 of which are deemed obviously the in-service days. And in paragraph 3.2, we describe what the school terms are, and I'm sure you'll be familiar with that. In paragraph 3.4, we describe that a number of views were sought from stakeholders, and I'm always saying the same thing. It is one of the highest returns that we get in education in terms of consultation and engagement. And in paragraph 4, we can see there on page 82, we show that 3,282 respondents expressed their views on the school holidays and give some insight into the views that were expressed. And you can see that for yourselves here this morning. So in paragraph 5, the proposal is that we report that all the stakeholders consulted, the majority agreed with the proposed holiday dates. There isn't really that much flexibility when you're working in those terms anyway. So it's proposed therefore that the pattern for the school holiday dates and in-service dates for 2024-25, as highlighted in Appendix 1, be adopted, and to note that the holiday dates are generally in line with our neighbouring authorities and indeed the West Partnership. So, Chair, the committee is asked to approve the following recommendation at paragraph 2, that the proposed dates for school holidays and in-service days in South Lanarkshire for session 2024-25, as detailed in Appendix 1, be approved. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Des. The recommendations are on page 81. Is there any questions? Nope. I will ask the committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. Items for noting, the agenda item number 10, Accounts Commission Early Learning and Childcare Progress and Delivery of the 1140 hours expansion, page 85 to 88. The recommendations are on page 85. Is there any questions? No. I will ask the committee to agree the report.
Agreed.
Agenda item number 11, the Scottish Attainment Challenge Tri-Annual Update, pages 89 to 106. Recommendations are on page 89. Is there any questions? Councillor Allison. Oh.
Apologies, I've got Desi's fingers. The Attainment Challenge, it's really a national report there. What I was looking for was perhaps some more local information on how we are performing. Nationally, we're hearing that the attainment gap in the last year has grown. Are we managing to do better than that, or where are we?
Yeah, Carol. See if you press your button. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Allison. We are currently doing analysis of this year's Curriculum for Excellence results and also our latest SQA exam results for May 23. So the issue with is a timing issue here. We will bring a report back to committee as soon as that data is ready to be released publicly. At the moment, we're still under the moratorium of the data is still going through the appeals process, it's still being cleansed. So I don't think we'll be in a position to bring that until early in the new year because we're just simply not allowed to use the latest data publicly yet. But as soon as we can, we will. I mean, what I can say is that there are some encouraging signs around the gap, but there is still a lot of work to be done, and that is a national picture. And I guess our schools are still playing a bit of catch-up post-COVID, but we have narrowed the gap in some measures. I can't give the actual figures because we can't release them as yet, and there is work to be done in others, but I can assure committee that we will bring two reports, one around SQA data and the other one around Curriculum for Excellence data to the committee as soon as we're able, and that will give members a full sight of what the data looks like.
Okay, is that all right, Alec? Thank you very much. Can I ask the committee to note the report?
Agreed.
Agenda item number 12, the independent review of qualifications and assessments in Scotland, page 107 to 110. The recommendations are in page 107. Is there any questions? Nope. I'll ask the committee to note the report.
Agreed.
Agenda item number 13, the standards and quality report, pages 111 to 114. I think Carol wants to say a few words on this, if that's all right.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to highlight, and I mentioned this previously, that we have now published our standards and quality report for session 22-23. We have made hard copies available at the table in the back for members, and any member that's not here, we can arrange to have those distributed via the offices. So it is a good read, bound to say that. There's been a lot of hard work from the officers going in to producing a report of such a high quality. What we do with this is we send it to the Scottish Government, and we will make it publicly available, and schools will get access to a copy. It tells a story about our successes and our achievements. It also lists some pertinent data about where we are and where we want to be. But I hope members will find this a useful document in terms of the current state of education resources and where we were over the course of last session. So, as I say, copies are available at the back. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Carol. I highly recommend picking it up. I've got one here, and it's even just flicking through it. It's really good to see the achievements and what's happening in our schools. So, a wee bit of bedtime reading for you. A nice glossy document. But I'll ask the committee to... is there any questions? Sorry. No bother. So I'll ask the committee to note the report.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. There is no items of urgent business, so I will close the meeting. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Chair.